All right, guys, featured prelim. Jeff Neal versus Rafael dos Anjos. These are two warriors that Neal Magny has fought. So we're here. We get to ask some questions about it. Very excited for this one. Let's start with Jeff Neal. You had a decision win against them. Can you tell me about the fight, the game plan against them, some of the weaknesses and strengths you felt and you saw?
Yeah, so having a little bit of insight fighting both guys, with Jeff Neal in particular, with that fight, I remember the game plan specifically being to weigh on him and make him wrestle more heavier into the fight, because he has a tendency to fade in the fights as far as like his conditioning goes, his volume and that kind of thing. And not to mention, the dude has some power. He's very explosive from any position. His knees are good, his kicks are good, and he has power in both hands. So when that fight first came through, one of the things that we made sure we focused on was like literally trying to find ways to close the distance and really weigh on him, making it more difficult for him to use that explosive power.
I was trying to think, like, how could Rafael dos Anjos win this fight? And I thought, he's probably going to grapple. And I thought, who's the last guy to out-grapple Jeff Neal? I think it was you. Like, a lot of work in the clinch, a lot of work against the cage. So then follow-up, also fought Rafael dos Anjos. I think he went all the way down to Brazil in his hometown to do that. Can you talk to me a little bit about your experience with Rafael and what you took away from that fight?
Rafael dos Anjos is a guy who's been a fan of for years. I mean, I was very happy that he was at 155. I was like, oh, cool, would never cross paths. And out of nowhere, the guy decides to go to 170, and I'm matched with him. So when that fight came through, it was definitely I was excited about it. I got to test myself against a guy who's a former world champion at 155, testing the orders at 170. So I was super excited about that fight. Unfortunately, it didn't go my way. Ended up getting caught with the head and arm choke in that fight. But his grappling is good. His grappling is where he tends to shine the most in his fights. And then if you tend to let up on his grappling and think you're going to strike with him, he's able to make the best with that as well. So in this fight against Jeff Neal, really excited to see which version of Rafael dos Anjos shows up. Is he going to be the guy that goes out there and tries to go toe-to-toe with Jeff Neal, or does he try to force it to the ground as early as possible?
I really do think he's probably going to grapple. I think striking with the younger, more explosive guy is going to be risky. Having fought both these guys, who would you give an edge to?
If I were to force to make a decision on who would win this fight, I would have to give the edge to Jeff Neal. I would have to go with Jeff Neal in this fight. Just because like the skill sets that will take the win. Like I feel like Neal could do a decent job defending takedowns, keeping the fight on the feet. In addition to that, Rafael dos Anjos coming up at 155 in his last fight. It's a lot to try to stack on that much weight and muscle to compete at a weight class above. And I think him competing at 155 for his last couple of fights is going to work against him going to the fight with a guy like Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal is a strong, explosive guy. And I think that overall, like Rafael dos Anjos trying to wear on him and weigh him down is going to actually work against him, trying to control the bigger guy.
Great points. Ryan, any thoughts on this matchup? I know you're keen on this one as well.
Yeah, it really feels like Jeff Neal's boxing against RDA's more well-rounded game and veteran savvy. So much experience. He's beaten and fought so many world champions and just so many good competitors in the UFC. Jeff Neal's a little bit more untested, but has had some great performances of late. Finished Vicente Luque. It's a really interesting matchup. I'm going to go Jeff Neal on this one. I'm going to go Jeff Neal by knockout in the second round.
A good point on
Nice.
Luque being a similar opponent. Jeff Neal knocked him out. RDA was out-grappled by him. I'm going to give the edge to the younger guy, Jeff Neal. I'm going to agree with you, Neal. I think Jeff Neal gets his win. Probably, like Ryan just said, TKO or knockout, second or third round.